Hi everyone. In the previous class, we have seen the concept of document object, which is meant for to access the HTML elements or to modify the HTML elements or to access the content of the document or to modify the content of the document, or we can able to access the properties of a particular element, or we can able to modify the properties of a particular element. All these things we can able to with help of this document object. Okay, before going to do this kind of operations, first we have to access that corresponding element. That accessing we can able to with help of id called as get element by id, or get elements by class name, or get elements by tag name. There is some drawback is there which we have discussed in the previous class already. To overcome this drawback, we are moving for query selector, and then we'll go with the query selector all. Once we access the element, then we can go for accessing the data. That accessing the data we can able to with help of three properties. One is inner HTML, inner text, and text content. For example, I would like to apply some kind of new styles to a particular element. Then I can go for styling also. That syntax is like accessing element followed by dot style dot properties equal to the property which you want to set the value. This is what we have seen in the previous class. Now in today's class, we'll see the concept of validations. Validations means simply validating data. I mean, it is going to conform to certain rules. If a particular thing is conformed to certain rules, we can call it as it is valid one. We can call it as it is valid one. For example, I am saying I am trying to enter my phone number like this. Is this a valid number? No, it is invalid. Invalid. If I am entering some phone number like this, it is valid. Why I am saying that the top one is invalid and this one is valid means it is having only 9 digits. That's why I'm saying that invalid. It is having 10 digits. That's why I'm saying it is valid. So if you want to check whether the data is valid, or if you want to confirm whether it is following certain rules or not, that thing we can comes under validations purpose. Okay. For example, your username should have minimum 4 characters. If the user enters less than 4 characters, then we can say that it is invalid. Invalid. So if you want to make this kind of rules, then all those things we can able to with help of this validations concept. Actually, these validations we can do at two levels. One is at server side, another one is at client side. If you are going to make the validations at server side, meaning that we are going to send the entire data to the server. There you are going to validate, and it is going to produce response whether the given data is valid or not. So in this entire process, what will happen? For example, if the user has entered invalid data, invalid data, this data will send to the server and process it and get back from the server. This all will consume your network. Your network. To overcome this drawback, we are moving for client-side validations. So in client-side validations, what we are going to do, the browser itself perform the browser itself validate the entire data. I'm sorry, entire data. Okay, when the browser itself validating the data, we are not consuming any kind of network. So that is why there will be network traffic is very less in client side validations. So this client side validations we can able to achieve it through a language called JavaScript. We can call those validations as JavaScript validations. This is what we are going to see in this class. So in client side, the browser itself is going to validate whether the entire data is valid or not, whether it is conformed to certain rules or not. All those things will be done by the browser itself. Okay, so that because reason we will reduce the network traffic and also the performance, the responsiveness. We can call it as response time. Exactly, response time will be more here. Response time is more, whereas coming to client side, the response time is very fast because there itself they are going to validate. Okay, fine. Before going to explain these validations, let me go with the HTML code first. Okay, guys. For example, I am trying to create one division here. So in order to maintain my form, div tag, Here I am going to use my table tag uh, in order to represent my entire form in the form of the rows and columns. I am going to take one row. In that row, I am going to define the first name, first name, and then in the next column, I am going to place my input field. Input type equal to text. If you would like to wish to give the name, you can give the name. If you would like to access with respect to ID, I am going to write as ID as first. ID as first. Okay, guys, you can observe in the output. This is the form what I have created. Now I would like to get this form in the center. From the center, so I am going to make this in the between center tags. That will comes to center, and I would like to have some kind of styling to this form. For example, I am going to use styles, internal styles, style tag. I will access my division tag. I will make my background color as, let me take it as yellow, and I would like to make my width as some 500 pixel. 500 pixel. Now you can observe. Yes. I would like to make for this some kind of heading, H1. Let me call it as a registration form. I'm just making some heading. It is not exactly a registration form. Yes. Fine. Now it looks like a good thing. Yes. Now what will happen, guys? We would like to take some data from the user. Now we need to submit this data to the server, right? To submit this data to server, we require a submit button, right? Input type equal to submit, name equal, let me call as yes, and I'm calling value as register. Value as register. Yes. Okay, I think I'm getting. I need to write in the form of a table row. I'm going to close my table data and closing my table row. Okay, now it looks good. Yes. Now, whenever I click this register button, I need to send this data to the server, or I need to send this data to the some third party file. So for that, what we can do, we can go with a tag called form tag. This is what we have seen already in the previous classes. Form tag. So this form tag is meant for to send data to the server or any kind of third party file. Here we'll have an attribute called action attribute, action equal to /jk.php, meaning that when the user is submitted the form, it will be send data to the jk.php file. And I have a method called method attribute method equal to post. I have it. Now observe, if I entered some data and sending register, that will be sent to jk.php file. There is no problem. For example, I didn't enter any data and trying to click on the register, that will also send to the server. It is invalid, right? So what you need to do is, before going to send it to the server, you have to check whether the entered data is valid or not. So in my case, we need to check whether the entered data is having less than 4 characters or not. If entered data is having less than 4 characters, I need to make it as invalid. Invalid. How we are going to do that? If you observe, guys, first what you will do, you have to get this data, get this form data, right? How we are going to get this form data? I will show in the console first. So how we are going to access document dot, you are going to access that field. How we are going to access doc get element by ID of the ID is first. If you observe this, you will get the entire field. In this, if you want to get a particular field, I can able to access with respect to value. You will get nothing, right? So that is because I am not entering anything. Here I am writing as J Krishna. Now if you observe, if I retrieve, you will get that data. Meaning that whatever data that you are trying to enter, that will be retrieved by this corresponding code. Not only this way, in the previous class I have shown document dot images to get all the images, document dot links to get all the anchor tags. Similarly, if you would like to get all the forms of the page, I can go for document dot forms. It will provide an HTML collection array. It is provided as length as 1 because in this particular HTML document we will have only one form. So how we are going to access that one form? By simply making use of document dot forms of first one, right? So its index is 0. Index 0. You get first form. In this first form, what you require? I require the field with the ID as first. You got the corresponding. So the same thing is produced by this particular code also. Meaning that there are two ways to access this particular element. Not only this, we can able to access it another multiple ways also, but I am trying to show here these two ways. Now, if you would like to have the corresponding value, right? The value, you can observe the same value is going to be retrieved. Okay, guys. Fine. So what you are going to do, whenever user clicks submit button, I need to get that data and I need to check whether the data is valid or not. So for example, how we are going to do that? So generally we have seen the console. Now we would like to show in the JavaScript editor directly. Script type equal to extra JavaScript. Now what I will do, I will create one function. Function name is validate. Validate. Now I would like to retrieve that data. How we are going to retrieve that data? By simply using of this. I'm going to save in a variable called d variable or some variable as fun variable. I'm going to copy. I got the first element. In that, if you would like to have value, I will go with value. Now, if this value length is less than 4, I can say that it is invalid. I can say that it is invalid. Otherwise, I can say that it is valid. It is valid. Okay, guys. Now, if I refresh, I'll click register. Now it is working? No, it is not working. Why? Because here what is happening? Whenever you click submit button, do I have called this function actually? No, I didn't call this function. So whenever the submit button clicked, the form I need to submit, I need to call the function called valid function. So I will have an event on submit event. On submit equal to, I will call the method as validate method. Validate method which I have written already. Meaning that when the user has submitted this form, first valid function will be called. If this valid function is true, then only form action will be submitted. Let us observe. Now here I have written J. Now it is valid, right? It is valid and click on OK, submitted. Now if I entered the data which is not valid, if I click register, it is showing that it is invalid. Yes, that's good. Click OK, but it is submitted. What is happening, guys? For both ways, irrespective of whether it is valid or whether it is invalid, it is submitted. I don't want to go further. What I am saying is here, this is important one. What you have to do is, if the form tag will retrieve true, then it will send data to the server. Otherwise, it won't send data to server. For example, if I am writing like this, a return true, it will always send data to the server. I don't want to go for that. I would like to go for based upon this, based upon this value. Then I will go with the return validate. What will happen, guys? Here I am going to return false. Return false. Here I am going to return. What does the meaning of this? This validate function will return false when it is not satisfying the corresponding rules, and that false will comes to here. False will comes to here, and it will in turn return that value to the form. If this form will retrieve the false, then it is not going to submit. If it returns true, it is going to submit it to the server. Observe. I will refresh. I will click something like this. Valid data. Click register. Yes, it is submitted to jk.php. Now, for example, I have entered JA. I'll go for click register. Even though I'm clicking for multiple times, it is not submitting because this form is returning false value. In turn, this on submit event is returning false value to here. That's why it is not showing anything. Yes, right? This is the way you can able to validate. So like this, you can able to make any kind of validations, whatever the way you want, you can do that. Okay. Next, I will go with the second name. Second name. ID as second. ID as second. Okay. Now what I will do is I will access this particular element. Now I will have the same rules for the second name also, where s1 equal to, I will access with respect to second. If fn dot length is less than 4 or sn dot second name dot length is also less than 4, I need to return false. That's what I have written. Now you can observe I have entered JRK. Yes, it is true. If I click register, now it is not submitting. But when I enter JA, it is also not registered. But when I entered some data more than that, now it will submit. This is the way you can able to work with the concept of forms. Yes. Okay. For example, next we'll see the mobile number field. Mobile number field. So input type equal to text. See, right now I don't want to use for name. Actually, this name should be a unique queue. ID equal to, I would like to write as mobile. Mobile. Okay, guys. Now I'm refreshing. Now observe. I will enter some valid data. I will enter some valid data. Mobile number. Now I'm trying to access some particular text here, right? Yes. Now I don't want to accept this text also here. For example, if you are using input type equal to text, when the user submits data, you will get the text data. How we are going to check whether the entered data is text or not? We will have a kind of method as is nan method, right? Which is meant for to check whether the given number is a number or not. Is not a number or not. Okay, so you can use that. Instead of that, what I can do is I will go for some kind of HTML element, HTML5 element, that is input type equal number. It is going to directly accept only numbers only. Some data, some data. It is one, even though I am trying to type text, it won't accept. It will always accept only the mobile number. Now I have entered some mobile number here. If I click register, it will accept because I didn't enter the valid. I didn't given any kind of validations for this mobile number. So now for this mobile also, I need to provide some validations for this. I will write where mobile number documented element by ID of. I can go with the mobile. I'm going to access its value, and include in addition to these properties, if my length mobile number length not equal to 10, I need to return false also. Now also I'm going to refresh. First name entered, second name entered, 98765. Click register, not submitted. If I go for 3210, click register, that will be submitted to server. This way you can able to work with the validations. Okay. Not only this, for example, in the form you may have some kind of check boxes where you would like to select multiple values out of the multiple options. For example, I would like to have a branch. A branch. Okay. For example, how we are going to create input type equal to checkbox. ID equal to C1. ID equal to C1. I would like to have multiple branches. For example, I would like to change ID as C2 and this ID should be C3. This is CSC, ECE and mechanical. I hope it is correct code. Observe. No, it is not correct code. I think. What happened? I think it is backslash TD. Yes, now it is correct. Now if I entered first name is correct and second name is correct, mobile number is some valid mobile number, and if I click register, that will be sent to server. But I don't want like that. I want to have at least one element should be selected. At least one element should be selected. Otherwise, I should not submit my form. See guys, here you can observe how we are going to check whether the checkbox is checked or not. First, I need to access the corresponding element document dot get element by ID of C1 dot. I have access element dot. We have a property called checked property. Checked property. You are getting false because I am not selecting this one. If I select this checkbox, if I am trying to access, you are going to get true. So this is the way you can able to get the data. So checked is a property to check whether the corresponding checkbox is selected or not. Okay, then what I will do is I will go for accessing that corresponding checkbox where C1 equal to document dot get element by ID of C1 dot. I am going to provide checked. Check whether I am getting checked or not. So like this for all the things you can able to see. For right now, what I will do is if C1 is checked, then only I need to submit the form. Otherwise, I should not submit the form. Then what I can do, I can go with if. Now C1 contains what? Some boolean value. If C1 is true, if C1 is for example false, I can go for return false. Otherwise, I'll go with return true. I'll go with return. See here, my requirement is you can implement with all kind of elements. I mean, when at least one element has to be checked, then only I need to submit the form. My requirement is when the corresponding box is checked, the corresponding one CSC box is checked, then only I need to submit the form. That is my requirement. Then what I can do, my C1 contains true. If C1 contains true, then only this loop is going to be executed, right? So I am going to return true. What I will do instead, I will go for if not C1, then only I will return false. Otherwise, I will go for returning. Now, guys, you can observe, refresh, valid data, valid data. I'm going to enter valid phone number. Now, I will register. It is submitting. It is submitting, but I should not allow that. See here, there is a mistake. What happened is all these three, first name, second name, and mobile number are valid. Once these are all valid, it is going to execute the else block that is return true. As it is getting the return keyword, it is going to return its control to the actual calling function. What will happen once the return keyword encountered, the remaining statements are not going to be executed. That is why here it is going to be submitted. So what I will do is, I don't want to go for this. I'll remove this. Now you can check first name, second name, mobile number, and if I click register, no, it is not submitting because I didn't select CSC. If I select the CSC, you can go for submit. This is the way you can able to do validation steps. Yeah. So what you will do is you can get all the check boxes and try to check. If at least one is checked, then only you need to go for submitting the data. That is what you can do. Yeah, like this you can able to do. Next we'll go with the radio boxes. So all those things also we can do with help of same property. For radio buttons also you can go for a property called checked. Like this you can able to do. So what I will do is now I'll go with comment this all the section. I'll make this also comment, and as I'm trying not using this mobile number, all those things I am making the comment. Those also normal comments. If and these are not using myself, I'm going to make this all comments. Again, I am having only first name. If now if the user is entered some valid name as JK, now click on register. What is happening, guys? Here, even though I entered my name as JK, it is not submitting the form. I don't think that it is invalid because it is not showing any error. If you'd like to show some kind of highlighted error to the user, then you can show that to the user with help of this document object. What you can do, instead of showing nothing, you can show here some kind of border highlighting, or you can show here as some kind of alert message like alert of invalid data. Like that you can able to do. For example, as I said already, like this you can go for this. If you enter JK, click submit, you are saying that invalid. Like this, if you want to do something to the user, that you can able to, but using this alert confirm all these things is not a good thing. Instead you can raise some error here itself. And for that, what you can do is, for example, I would like to highlight my border color with red color when the data is invalid. Then I can access this element, I can access its styling property, then I can change its color to red color. Okay, so what I will do is I will make it comment. I can access the element. How we are going to access? Document dot get element by ID of first element I have accepted. In for that, what I need to do? I need to apply some styling. That's why I'm using style property. Style dot. You have to apply some kind of border color. Border color equal to some red. Now you can observe that. If you refresh, if I click register, it is getting some red color. Yeah. So I would like to apply border width all the things. So instead of going for border width, the border color separately, I can go with shorten property. That is 5 pixel, 5 pixel, solid, and I want to have red color. I can go for refresh. If I click register, see observe automatically it is showing there. It will kind of error. Sometimes what will happen is when you click the some register or some option, not only showing it's a kind of red border, adjacent to that it is showing some kind of message like invalid data like that. That also we can do with help of this document object. what I can do, guys, for example, let me create one label here. You can go with any kind of thing. You will have multiple solutions. Label. I'm saying that this is invalid data. That will be displayed here. But I don't want to display this one. For example, I would like to have some styling color equal to red. That will display in red color. But I don't want to display initially. I would like to make it hide. We can have a property called visibility equal to hidden. Visibility equal to hidden. And if I refresh, that will be hidden. Now, whenever I click register here, that will be, it is getting the correct thing. I would like to highlight this invalid data also, display this invalid data. Then what I can do, I can access this particular label and I will make this as visible to the user. Now that thing we can do. For example, how we are going to access document dot get element by ID of it will, what is the ID name here? I think I did given any ID name. ID equal, let me call as L. So you have to give valid names. ID equal to here. ID of here. Dot. I would like to modify its styling, right? Style dot visibility. Visibility equal to visible. I am going to make it visible. When the user entered invalid data. For example, if I entered some data like this, if I click register, that will validate and send to the server. If I entered some invalid data, now if I click register, it is showing that in addition to this one, it's showing that invalid data. So like this, you can able to do uh, validations. Okay. Sometimes what will happen there, some kind of star mark is there, no? That you can able to do like this. It will mark kind of a star. Okay, so or if you want to change the background color, that you can able to change with the help of the style property. Whatever the way you want, once you access an element, you can apply any kind of properties. With it's all up to your interest. Okay, fine. For example, uh, nowadays, if you see any kind of forms, if you see any kind of forms, for example, let me go with this as password field. This as password field. I'm going to make input type equal to this as password. Password. If I refresh, what will happen here? If I am trying to type something that will be in hidden format. Nowadays, if you observe in most of the forms, you will get some kind of icon of logo. Whenever you click on that icon, it is going to be visible. Whenever again you click on that icon, you are going to get hide. That also we can do with the help of this document object. Okay. For example, what you can do is you can take one small eye image and use on-click property. On-click property. Whenever you click on that particular image, call some function. Let me call it as I function, and make that uh, text property, password property as text. See, for example, I'm going to open the console. I'm going to select the element, this element. Try to observe this element I have selected. Here it is input type equal to password. That is why it is hide. If I double click, I'm trying to edit text. Observe, once I press enter, that will be visible or not. So during the runtime, what you can do is accessing this particular element and will modify this particular text to password or password to text. That depends upon your interest. Now what we can do is in the I function, what you can do means you will access that particular element and try to modify it type to text. That's enough. That's it. So that is the way you can able to convert a hidden encrypted text into normal text. Okay, fine. For timing, what I will do is I will take one checkbox here. For example, let me create one checkbox, table row, and td show password. I'm going to close. I'm going to create one more td. I would like to create one checkbox. Input type equal to checkbox. If you want, you can give the name as. See what is happening here. I will give some ID to this one. ID equal to SP only. ID equal to SP. ID equal to SP. Now, whenever user clicks on this checkbox, meaning that I would like to show this one, show password. On click, I will call a function called SP function, or else let me call this as S only, SP function. Now I would like to implement this SP function. Observe function function SP function. Here I would like to call that function first. First, whether user has selected that particular element or not. How we are going to that? Document dot get element by ID of yes dot whether user has checked or not. Yes, I will check its value. I'm going to store it in a variable called yes. Let me take to avoid confusion. I'm taking as S1. Now, if S1 is true, the meaning is user has selected it. Observe. Now, if I refresh. Now, if I am entering something like this, if user is by default is unchecked. If I click this one, then only I will get the true. If I click means it is already showing, right? If I click means it is already showing. So meaning that if it is true, it is already showing. If it is not clicked, then I need to make it convert into once I return get element by ID of what I need to access I need to access the corresponding ID first. This name is first only, right? Password. First dot type. You have to modify its type to what you have to modify. See, it is getting true. As it is getting true, it means that it is already checked. Already checked means it is visible. Now I would like to modify it as password. Unchecked means I need to modify it as password. If it is already checked, I need to make it as visible. I need to make it as visible. Guys, if you observe, I'm going to refresh. I'm going to enter some data here. And if I click serve password, see, observe, it is visible. If I deselect this, it is again hide. So this is the way you can able to implement this kind of requirement. Not only this, guys, you can able to work with various kind of other ways, various kind of other kind of validations also. All those things you can do on yourself. Yeah. For example, as I got the concept of here accessing the an attribute type, I would like to have uh, an image somewhere. I would like to have an image somewhere. Whenever I place cursor on that image, I need to modify it to some other image. That also we can do. For example, outside of somewhere, I'm going to create one image. Image source equal to logo.png. Logo.png. I'm trying to access this ID, so I make it as uh, I. Image as I. See, if I refresh, what happened? Some image inside. Whenever I place cursor on this image, it needs to modify it to uh, another image. Another image. So what I can do, guys, I can go for an event called on mouse over int. On mouse over equal to, let me call the method as change. Now this method I am going to implement now. Function change method. Now I need to access first that particular element. Document dot get element by ID of that is I dot. What attribute you need to change? You need to change its attribute src. In the previous case, src value is logo.png. Now I need to change its attribute to some other one. That is vij.png. There exists this image there. So you can observe, guys. If I refresh, if I place cursor, that will be it. If I remove my cursor, it needs to change back to the original element, right? Then what I can do is that also we can do with the help of an event called on mouse event unchange. I'm going to implement the same in the unchange function. Function unchange dot source is logo dot png. Now observe again. If I place cursor, that will be modified. If I remove the cursor, that will be added back to this. So like this, you can able to modify the attribute values in the help of this document object. Something like Krishna. If I select this, if I am making something like now invalid, that will make it as invalid data. So like this, you can able to work with various kind of validations along with the document object. I hope you understood this class clearly. Thank you.